An oratoria for a full orchestra, and now he's just brought out what he calls a homemade album, recorded at his country retreat in southern England.
There you go, it is the studio.
Great. Along with the Britbats from critics who accuse him of sentimentality, he's had to endure a number of personal blows, losing his songwriting partner John Lennon to an assassin's bullet, and more recently helping his wife Linda in her fight against breast cancer.
Do you find, apart from enjoying your music, music's also a way of getting comfort when, sort of through difficult times? Do you find music a help?
Yeah, it was always like that for me. It's I never really think of it until a question comes up like that, but it is true that if I'm in a not very good mood, a great thing to do is just take a guitar, because you think about it, you sort of hold it to you, you know, a guitar, and it's kind of comforting thing to do. You go off into a little room somewhere, you know, on your own, and tell the guitar your troubles, kind of thing. It's like it's a cheap psychiatrist, really. And it turns round and the guitar sort of sends it back to you. And it comes back as a song somehow.
His latest single is called Young Boy. It tells the story of an adolescent search for the right girl.
He's just a young boy looking for a way to find love.
What I was thinking of in my own mind is probably my son, really, because he's 19 now. I've got 3 other kids who are older than him, girls who are older than him. And they're great kids, you know. I'm biased, but they're fantastic kids. And in their case, I realise you see yourself when they hit a certain age. And I remembered that at a certain age, I always used to think, you know, wow, you know, what about love then? You know, how am I ever going to meet that one person who's for me? And it's a really daunting thing, particularly when you're, you know, 17, 18, 19. You think, oh God, you know, fate has got to make it. So that person's got to, and me have got to meet. And it's like, you get a bit scared with it, I think. It's a bit like deciding your career. What am I going to be? You know, there's a few very scary questions at that age. And I see my kids going through it. So I think that was what was on my mind. You know, a young boy looking for a way to find love. It isn't easy, but, you know.
He's also brought out a single specifically for the American market called The World Tonight. When it came to shooting the video at night, he didn't need to travel the world.
So I'd always had in mind going in a big city like New York and sort of wandering around, though I can see the world tonight, you know, or LA or Tokyo, you know, those big glamorous cities. But we were down here on the south coast, so I said, well, I'll tell you what, let's just go along to Hastings, just along the thing here. And that was exactly what we did. We waited till the sun was going down. And he just took one camera, and then one of the guys who was with us took a little home movie camera. And I just wandered around Hastings in my old overcoat, and I had a ghetto blaster, because that was because we couldn't do sync sound and all the film stuff. I just had a ghetto blaster on my shoulder. And the great thing was, I became the character that people want to ignore. In the street, it's like, oh, you see a fella coming towards you, go, yeah, man, all right, with a big ghetto blaster. You don't look at him, you know, you go, oh, he's that guy, you know. So I became this fella just wandering around, going, I can see the world tonight, with a very loud blasting out. And I think people were like, you know, didn't want to talk to me.
The 2 singles are taken from his new album, which goes by the title Flaming Pie.
It's an old Beatle expression that John thought up. When we came to do the Beatles anthology, that question had to be answered. Who thought of the name Beatles and what was it all about? And we always referred people back to an article that John did in a music paper called the Mersey Beat in Liverpool when we were just first starting. And he did a thing called On the Dubious Origins of the Beatles or something. It was kind of a student-y, humorous thing. And somewhere in it he did a quote like, when I was 12, I had a vision, and a man came unto me on a flaming pie and said, you shall be the Beatles with an A. And so it was. It was that kind of thing, you know. So we always knew it was a joke, and that wasn't the real answer. But when we came to do the anthology, one or two people were saying, no, John had a vision. We said, no, that was like a joke, you know. So it became a joke amongst us about the fact that flaming pie could be taken seriously. This man on a flaming pie. We kept trying to explain, no, this is British humour. You know, Flaming Chariot or Phoenix, yeah, but Pie, no. You know, this is so. It just became a bit of a joke, but we let it pass in the anthology, and it was just a bit of fun. But I was looking for a rhyme to, I think it was the word sky, going through the alphabet, buy, cry, fly. And I got to pie, and normally I would just discard it and go, it's just a joke, but I went, pie, wait a minute, pie, flaming pie. So I wrote a song called Flaming Pie. A couple of the songs did come quickly. What I do sometimes, just as a kind of game for myself, is I set myself an arbitrary deadline, just so as I don't go on forever. And it's like, you know, there's nobody else is going to give me a deadline, so I'll give myself one. So on 2 occasions I was acting as Linda's chauffeur when she was going to do some photos for her cookery stuff. And I go to these sessions, and she's having a photo taken and doing the cookery, whatever it was. And I just get off in a little back room and leave her till she's ready for me to drive her home, see. I know my place. So I take my guitar normally. So I just sit around, and on 2 occasions with 2 of the songs, one's called Some Days and the other one is the British single called Young Boy, I just make sure I make up a song in that time, you know. I say, come on, you know, don't let myself dither. So when I'm wondering what the word should be, I go and pick it out quickly instead of, oh, it could be this, it could be that, you know.
OK, Paul, let's have a listen.
Some of the tracks were recorded with the help of George Martin, the producer behind all the great Beatles albums. He also worked on the recent Beatles anthology, a best-selling collection of their old hits, plus some new unreleased material.
Now, the anthology was hugely successful. How did that inspire you this time round?
It was a big help, because looking back over particularly the early Beatles stuff, we were in the studio with George Martin and George Harrison, Ringo. I was in the studio with them, and we'd be listening to the old tracks, and you could see how we made them, and you could see how little time we spent on them, and how focused we were, and how turned on we were. And it turned me on again. I thought, wow, you know, we didn't really make a big job of it. They were just good songs, simply done. And so it kind of inspired me. So I thought, with this album, I'd like to make an album of songs where if you go down the track listing in 2 years' time, you think, oh yeah, I know that one. Oh, I like that one. Yeah, that's good. So, you know, try and make them all decent songs and then go and record them without too much fuss and enjoy it without too much pressure. Don't get too desperate. So that's been the spirit of it all, you know, and I think that all came from listening to the Beatles stuff.
One of the singles from the Beatles anthology was Free as a Bird. With a little help from his friends in sound engineering, McCartney got the chance to sing with John Lennon again.
What was that like for you? Was that very emotional?
Yeah, it was very emotional, yeah, because after all those years of missing John, and, you know, when something like that happens, you kind of put your emotions to one side. You have to get on with life, you know. But of course, it surfaced again when Yoko gave us the track, and I loved Free as a Bird. I just thought, oh, I really would have loved to have worked on that with the Beatles. So the idea came up because of the anthology. So I heard it, and I was very emotional. I thought, wow, you know, yeah, the boy, Johnny, you know, of course I loved him, you know. And I spoke to Ringo on the phone, and I said, listen, you better keep your hanky handy, you know, with this one, because it's pretty emotional when you hear it, you know. But he was lovely. He rang back. He said, oh, I think, you know, we could do this. It could be quite a joyous occasion, he said, lapsing into medieval English. But that was what we did. We just had fun. It was really joyous to work on, and we just enjoyed it. George put a great solo on that just finished it off. And it was fantastic for me, having John in the headphones. It was like he was here, because when you're working, he would be in a booth over there, and you're not necessarily looking at him. He's here in the headphones.
McCartney first met Lennon as a 15-year-old growing up in Liverpool. They went on to become one of the most successful songwriting partnerships of all time, and today John's presence lives on.
Occasionally, it wells up, you know, and I'm at home on the weekend suddenly, and I start thinking about him or talking to the kids about him, and I can't handle it. It just all goes, you know. But most of the time, I can just about handle it. You sort of have to get through the day, you know. But I've got so many great memories, and I feel very privileged, you know. I'm the guy he wrote with. That's pretty cool. And we wrote some great stuff and enjoyed it. Never really sweated it. We normally finished a song in about 3 hours, and can't ever remember coming away from a session without having a song. And we didn't ever put them down on cassettes. So we just had to remember them. I hate to tell you, it was pre-cassette when we were working. So, you know, I just feel really good about it, really. The memories are really great. It's terrible what happened to him. But the memories are beautiful, you know, so that's something.
Back in December 1980, the world of music was turned upside down when John Lennon was shot outside his New York apartment.
John Lennon was brought to the emergency room at the Roosevelt site, St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital, this evening, shortly before 11 p.m. He was dead on arrival.
In darker moments, do you ever still look back at the moment when you first discovered that he'd been murdered, when you first heard the news? Do you ever look back at that, or do you block that from
Well,
your mind?
no, you know, if someone asks me the question or it comes up, I remember it very well, yeah. I got a call from my office that morning, and they gave me the news, and I was just totally sort of stunned and just went blank and went pale. And Linda had actually taken the kids to school. So when she got back, she was quite happy. Hey, how you doing? Just saw me and thought, she said, God, what's happened? You know, what's gone wrong? So I had to tell her, and we just had a terrible day, really. Like I think most people did. You know, it was on the radio everywhere. It was a terrible day. I was kind of in shock, and somebody stuck a microphone in the car door and sort of said, what do you think? You know, and all I could blurt out was, it's a drag. And of course, when that got translated to print, it looked terrible. Well, McCartney says, oh, it's a drag. It looked very sort of wrong. But I was just stunned, you know. It was a terrible day. Those kind of things are just horrible because it alerts everyone to their own fragility and your own lack of security. And it's not just stars, as you see. If you look at the news, you know, it's everyone. You know, there's always that kind of thing happening. And today in McDonald's, so-and-so, somebody ran in with a gun and sprayed everyone, you know. It's our world, I'm afraid. But, yeah, you've got to get on.
Years after the Beatles were awarded the MBE, Paul McCartney was back at Buckingham Palace in March this year. This time it was to receive a knighthood.
It's like Wimbledon. Wonderful, glorious day for us all. Proud to be British, wonderful day, and it's a long way from little terrace in Liverpool.
Have you spoken to the other Beatles about this?
Yep. They make fun of me, and they call me Your Holiness, but they're having a good time. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. What memories? Well, I just remember the other three, you know. I keep looking over my shoulder expecting to see them.
At the height of their fame in the mid-60s, the Beatles were subject to frenzied worship. The mayhem ultimately forced them to give up touring altogether. Today, McCartney has been able to relive some of these scenes through his work on the videos released with the Beatles anthology.
At the time, I said to people, it was like drowning. It was like seeing my life go in front of me. You know, they said. But it was good. It's. I think it had the same effect on me as it did on a lot of people, like you're saying. It made me realise again how huge it was. I'd lived through it, and you don't see it all. You're getting out of a limo, you're getting into the stage door, you're tuning your guitar, you're worrying about the lyrics, you're wondering if you'll get the harmony right, you're hoping you didn't make a mistake on the record or something. This time round, you could just sit back, like looking at your family at home movies or something, just look back and go, wow, you know. Could see John and sort of see a portrait of John, see a portrait of George Ringo, see how we connected. And I really enjoyed it.
Did you realise the enormity of the time? Because, I mean, you were the Beatles, so...
Yeah, we realised, yeah, we did. We realised. But when it was all put together in that show, it proved it. I think we all felt it. You couldn't not be in it and not feel it. You'd have no feelings at all, you know, you'd be totally insensitive to not feel it when Shea Stadium was going down, or Ed Sullivan, you know, or, you know, some of the records we were making. If you didn't notice that, you'd be pretty thick. But, because, you know, so we knew what was going on, but it was going on outside us, and we were in the middle of it all. And what happened with the anthology is suddenly I was outside it all with people, watching it for the first time, which was quite something.
Fresh-faced Paul was always the most eligible bachelor amongst the Beatles. He went out for many years with the actress Jane Asher, and many saw them as the perfect match. But in 1969, he surprised his fans by marrying Linda Eastman, a socialite photographer from America.
I had a few girlfriends before Linda, and they were kind of almost serious, but when I met Linda, I knew it was very serious, in a kind of non-serious way, really. That was almost what was good about it. It was like we had a laugh together, you know, and it wasn't like sort of serious love. It was just like we just got on well. And so when we got together, I think she was from quite a wealthy family in America, and she didn't really like that very wealthy lifestyle. She'd been into big houses in where she was brought up, very rich people, and there'd maybe been two people rattling around in this big old house, and she didn't like the atmosphere. She'd go, God, you know, I don't like that. I'd rather have a small house and a smell of some cooking going on and family stuff, you know. So she was very like that. And me coming from Liverpool, I'd always been very like that. Even though we got all the Beatles fame and everything, I still like that. So when the two of us got together, it was like, okay, well, if we have kids, you know, we don't want to really pressure them. We just want them to have good hearts. It all sounds very, you know, get the violins out, but it is very much what we thought. It was our priority to keep our feet on the ground. And knowing that I already had quite a bit of money by that stage, knowing you were bringing up kids who were going to have money around, the one thing always worried me about rich kids was that they were spoiled and they were snotty little brats often, you know. So we thought, well, we'll try and keep that a priority, that our kids don't get spoiled. So Linda never had a nanny. She always did the cooking and stuff. So, I mean, at one point it was ridiculous. We actually lived in a 2-bedroom house with 4 kids. I mean, that's silly, but it was very close.
His daughter Stella was recently made chief designer with the French fashion house Chloe. Just 25 and relatively inexperienced, she was judged by some critics to owe her high-profile job to her famous name.
It's par for the course. It's what people always just call the price of fame. You know, as you're getting famous, they'll say, you know, it's the price of fame. And it is the price of fame. She's very cool about it. She knows. Because you see, the kids, that was one of the things, they went through state schools, so they got all of that early on. When they were little, they'd have people following them going, "Mullikintyre," and so they had to learn to sort of say, "Hey, you know, and deal with it young." So she's very cool, you know. Someone said to her, I think Mr. Lagerfeld, whose job she took over, said something a little bit bitchy in the press, you know. And someone said, how are you going to deal with that? You know, she said, I think I'll send him some flowers and thank him for the mention. You know, it hurts a little bit, but not much, because you know that whatever you do, people have to do that. There was a radio show the other day, and my son came home, and they'd taken a little bit of a knock at Stella. It was one of those where somebody said, of course, you know, it was just guts and talent that got her the job, nothing to do with the name. Which is a cheap shot.
You must be very proud of your kids, because James on this album too, isn't he? I mean, that must have been terrific, was it, recording with your son?
Yeah.
What's it like?
It's fantastic, you know. We've always said we keep the kids out of the limelight, and we have done for a long time. And people said, are they musical? You know, you want to get them in music. I said, well, you know, I wouldn't push them into it, because they're going to be the son of or the daughter of. Like you're saying, you know, it's inevitable. People can't ignore that fact. But we've always said, me and Linda, you know, that if they just have got a natural talent for something, then we'll push them. Then we'll support them like any parents would, you know. So, yeah, it was fantastic. So the time's arrived now, you know. The youngest now, James, is 19. So they're entering professions out of their own free will. And I think he's a really good musician, you know. So we came in this studio here, and I had a song that needed a little solo in the middle of it. So I said, well, look, if I play a bit of acoustic guitar, maybe you could answer it with electric, you know. And we had a great little session. It was lovely. We read each other, like as if we'd been in a band 20 years, but we'd known each other for 19 years. And similarly with the kids, you know, they're now finding their own way, and they're doing it themselves. That's the thing, you know, we're not really pushing them. We send them flowers and congratulate them, but she's the one who's
That's
got
like any parent,
yeah.
isn't it?
You know, we just thought the other day, because of the whole fame thing, we never collect press cuttings. But we just got to the point where we've got to. We thought, well, any proud mum and dad would do that. We've got to collect the press cuttings. So we're busily collecting all the press cuttings now.
How do you relax? I've seen some lovely pictures of you and Linda riding together. How do you switch off when you're here?
Well, that's that kind of thing. Linda has always loved horses, and she's been a great rider for a long time. So she taught me to ride about 20 years ago. So we love horse riding. We don't kind of gallop around everywhere. We pretty much sort of walk around. You know, it's very gentle and very. I love the countryside. I have hobbies like I like making paths through woods.
How do you do that then?
You just get a chainsaw.
Lovely.
You get your hat on, big bird gloves. I love it. It's very therapeutic to me. It's around these kind of places, around farms and stuff, a lot of people there'll be a woods, and they don't go in it for 20 years, but because where I used to live in Liverpool, whenever there was a woods, we went in it. Woods are for going in, you know. So where I lived, a lot of woods, and on my farm there were woods that no one had been in for years. So because we ride horses, I like to go in the woods, make a path, and then the next day I can say to Linda, I've made a new path. You want to come and see it, you know? And it's just a thing of mine. I think I've made over 5 miles of paths.
You're allowed to do this. Should we be telling the National Trust?
Oh yeah, no, it's my woods.
Oh, that's all right.
They're my woods, yeah.